I want it a bit smaller.
Right, I'm going to make this the last session that I demonstrate the sea and waves project. So I thought what I'd do today is a little bit of watercolour, and then I'll also develop the one I've been working on, the kind of acrylic one, which I'll just add a bit of oils to it. So it's the first week of September this week. The next project, looking at the list, is it's sort of like glass and reflections. So I'm thinking that could be interpreted as, little still life objects, little bits of glass. Or if you wanted to come up with something else like shop windows or reflections in windows or something like that. So however you want to interpret that. And also do a little bit on watercolours. So I'll keep that for at least a couple of weeks of the project, and then we'll see how we get on. And if you want to keep going, that's fine. If not, we'll move on to whatever's next. So that'll be starting next week. I'm thinking sort of glass and reflections. So I don't mind where you go with everything. I'll try and keep mine focused on that, just to give it a slightly. Otherwise, I sort of end up going over the same old thing. So I can just do something slightly different with that. So that's that one. Trying to think what else. Oh yeah, we've got a bit of a leak, so there's a bucket there. So just be careful as you go through to the kitchen. Yeah, and apparently there was a bit of a leak in the ladies last week. Yeah, saying So just take care. I've let them know. Text them this morning. So this was when I started on Tuesday watercolour demo. You can see I've kind of done a wash into the sky, which sort of slightly overlapped the hills and mountains, which didn't really matter. I used some masking fluid here and then took that off, but I wasn't over happy with that really. It's a bit rigid and a bit harsh. So I've just this minute been experimenting with my masking fluid, and you won't be able to see this because I bought some new masking fluid earlier in the week, or last week, and it's not the blue one, it's the sort of like the creamy coloured one, so it's actually quite difficult to see. But I thought I'll go for Winter and June because the other one I wasn't really that happy with. It was sort of melting in the sun. When I took it out in the sun and tried to get it off, it was melting. So I thought, well, I'll try the Winter and June one again, see if that's better. So what I've tried to do here, I put a bit of masking fluid on here, but I've tried to do it in a way that it's quite a light touch, as light as I could, and just, there's not an awful lot of texture in this paper, but just to try and pick up a bit of texture in paper. So I tried with the flat brush, and I've also tried with sort of round brushes, and just try and almost just graze the surface. I found this old demo, this is from quite a long while ago, and I thought actually the sea worked quite nicely there. And that was really just literally a bit of just dry brush, just catching it's probably more luck than anything, but if you've got a rougher paper, it's a lot easier to get these sort of textured effects with watercolour. And I'm a really big fan of getting the brushes and the paper and the materials to do the work for you as much as you can. So that's that. So yeah, just I'll pop a bit of wash over here and just see if it's worked at all really. I'll just do that very quickly. So I just want some sort of bluey grey. So I'll do a little bit of that, and then maybe do a little bit on that one, then go back onto the other one. So yeah, there's some up here. Picking up stuff from somewhere. And it's quite nice to do these little studies, I think. Rather than, when you find a bit of your painting that's not working well, it's quite good to just go off to, go to the side and do a little kind of painted study. So vary that a little bit, and then I've got another patch. So that was with the flat brush, and this with the rounder brush. And it may be that neither of them have worked at all. I'll be able to see it again. I'll do it fairly dark so that we can actually see it when I take the fluid off. Just kind of.
Excuse my ignorance.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
But can you only use masking fluid with watercolour?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
With acrylic or oil.
Well, there wouldn't be any much point. I suppose you could use it with acrylic if you want to. Right. So you could do a watercolour-y style wash with acrylic.
Yeah.
They don't behave in such a nice way as the watercolour will.
No,
The watercolour will sort of disperse as a nice wash. It's possible to work in that way. And if you've got acrylics with you and you want to do a watercolour style, yeah, by all means. I don't know if it would work on canvas. I don't know if you could get it off canvas or boards. I think it's sort of pretty much designed for paper. To go on paper.
Okay, because watercolour paper is.
Yeah, so this is going on watercolour paper.
Okay.
But other than that, I mean, you could experiment, try it. But it wouldn't be, if you were working in a more solid, opaque way, there's no point in doing it anyway because you just paint white. It's only really. I don't want to get a cough. Maybe it's the heaters.
Yes, dusty. It's dusty.
That's fine when I got it. It's I've lost my train of thought. Never mind. It's gone. Masking fluid, yeah. Something about masking fluid. I don't know. It'll come back. Anyway, I'll take those off after the break and see if it has worked. Because it will take a minute. So with this, you've got to, the idea is to preserve the white paper. That's what I was going to say. So that you've got this nice bright white. It'll be much brighter than most of the white pigments you put on there. And it's got to be perfectly dry before you take it off. Otherwise, it will just smear over the bits that you want. These bits where I've probably got a bit too much, you can, if there's any little bubbles, you can just lift that a little bit. That might be interesting actually, just to soften those edges before you take it off. I hadn't really thought of that. It's good, yeah, nice to experiment. Yeah. Right, so I'll leave that and just do a little bit more. So with this one, I'll just do a tiny bit more of this, because I just thought it might be quite nice to just pop a wash in the background there. And really it doesn't need any great tons of texture back there, because it's really just a hint that there's something going on there. So I think I would do something like that. I've got quite a dark line here. Now perhaps we try and lighten that. I think I might be tempted to keep it just really light like that, and maybe just a tiny bit of variation at the bottom there. Yep, so I can do that, and I'll just get rid of that dribble, just dryish brush, just like that. Right, so that I think will do for that one. So this was the one that I started as acrylic underpainting last week. I was thinking really to develop it a little bit with oils now, oil brushes. So I quite like this slightly brushy sky. I quite like the warm yellow. It's almost like I want to just slightly blend that into there. So I can probably just mix a little bit of that. So it's white and just a tiny bit of yellow ochre. And not too much. Oh, that's a bit too bright. Yes, tone that down a bit. So I'll use some grey to tone it down a little bit. So really what I want to keep is the brightness down here. So anything up here, just wants to just kind of push the sky into the background. So really it's just slightly softening that edge out a little bit. And going into the oils now, this is quite nice because I can just sort of take my time and just make some slight alterations. Experiment a little bit. I could try that a little bit lighter, but it's very easy to wipe that back if I need to. So this is where it could be quite nice to work kind of acrylic underpainting and then work into it. And I could almost, like we were talking about this shape here a minute ago, and you could, I could sort of draw back into that, almost like create that as a sort of negative shape. If you see what I mean, just create some of that sort of jaggediness of the, perhaps gone a little bit too light there, but I could create some of that slightly jaggedy quality of the rocks, just with the brushes, something like that. I quite like that, slightly lighter there. I found, so that was more the original photo, and this is the one that I tweaked the colours a bit. But I quite like this slight warmth in the sky there. So I was really going with this one on this particular version, although the sea's got a bit too blue. And then when it comes to the waves, this is, this should probably be fine. Just using some, I'd suggest not going very, very bright to start with, so perhaps a kind of off-white, so white with the tiniest bit of grey. And then I can just use this flat brush. I've got a little bit there already, just using the corner just to suggest a bit scratching that up. Hi Mary! That's a bit too much, so I can wipe that back. Put that one there. And the same down here. Slightly using a kind of dry brush. So I'm just, again, picking up a tiny bit of texture. Using a flat brush, nice sharp flat brush. It's only a cheap one, but it's nice and sharp and new. And then this is probably where I'll put the brightest bits. So if you just use white throughout, it will read a little bit flat. So have some slightly off-white, slightly greyer tones, perhaps a bit like that.
What colours have you mixed with your white there for?
Something that was on the palette from Tuesday. So it's a grey, probably a bit of blue and brown to make it grey, yeah. So yeah, these, will have stayed wet for quite a while. Yeah, I've been experimenting with these ones. These are quite a cheap set I've got from CY, and they don't seem to be too bad. I don't think the colours are quite as strong as the Windsor and Newton ones, but then they were very, very cheap. So again, when I order from CY, if anybody wants any of these cheap paints, they seem usable. Right, and then perhaps just a few, just tiny bits of highlight. And it can be quite nice to keep the shadowy areas fairly thin, and any lighter areas a bit thicker and a bit more opaque. That often can look quite nice, quite visually appealing with probably with acrylics or oils, those sort of mediums. So yeah, that's what I tend to do, and kind of what quite a few artists will do. I find that works quite nicely. Is that right? We'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Any